want to have a chat with you about a few things. Let's go through all of that one by one. First, your Moodle. So I'll go through Moodle. There are a few new things that have come in here. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to talk while we are while I'm talking, or later on. Just send me a message on Teams. If need be, send me an email, whichever way you can. Okay. So let's go through this one at a time. So those are obviously the lectures. Those I'm sure you're comfortable with. If you look down here in course outline, so a new thing, and this probably was sent out as an announcement, but the problem with announcement is any kind of announcement is that you tend to forget. So I put this on the main page. Now this is not something which I handle. This is something which is handled by the business school, which is a PASS class. Now a PASS class is a class that is run by a former student. He or she, well, in this case it's a she. She is, to the best of my knowledge, she was not my student, but she has done relatively well in 2052. So Tuesdays, if you have any questions, you can have a chat with her. She can talk to you about anything at all except for the project. She has no idea about the project. Other than that, she should be able to help you. So that's one single thing. That's one thing that you probably can avail of. Again, this is not compulsory. This is after you have been through the lecture and your tudes, and if you still have problems, please feel free to have a chat with them. I call this improvement suggestions. It's been around, it's just been a little hidden, which is if you have any queries, I would just suggest that you send me a message on Teams. Somebody's microphone is on, which is creating a little bit of a problem. So if I could request you to turn it off. Anyway, so somebody with the initials AL. Anyway, so again, if this is something that if you want to discuss something with me without letting me know who you are, this is an anonymous link. So I check these weekly. I try and address as many things as I can. The one thing that I have not been able to, and I've been after IT forever, one student had a chat with me and she said that she wanted to have control over the video in terms of speeding it up and slowing it down. That unfortunately is something which IT has not been able to help me with. I thought about putting it on Dropbox. I have been told not to. None of these videos is, especially during these trimesters, are supposed to be shareable. So I apologize about that. That's something which I can't really do something about. There might be ways around it which you can figure out. If you do, please feel free to use whatever you can. Okay. A few more things. Your tutorials are fine. A few more things will come in. Don't worry about these right now. What I want to spend 2 minutes on is this particular section, which is the section on the project documents. Okay. So you've already had access to the first three: the project details, the project survey, and the project data. I am going to talk a little bit about the presentation today in terms of what I'm expecting from you. Again, the presentation is there even in a PPT format, but my suggestion again is don't get to this till week 7 or week 8, primarily because if you start using this towards writing your report, you will realize that as you get closer to week 8, you have new ideas, you have new tools at your disposal, which implies that whatever you're going to write right now is probably not going to be very useful. That does not mean that you do not get familiar with the data. That does not imply that you don't start using the test that you have learned during the lectures and in your tutorials. Okay, so you have to be very familiar with the data. All that I'm asking you to do is not start writing the report till week 8. Believe me, the report is small. Okay, I will go through that today. The report is small. The focus is not going to be on what you write. The focus is primarily going to be on how deeply you analyze this data. Your Tutors have absolutely no idea about the project. They are not going to be involved. The only way they are going to be involved is that you're going to be sending them the project and then they send it across to me. But I'll come back to that later. Okay. This is a group assignment cover sheet. I'm assuming you all know what that is. That is what goes on top of your project. That's for later again, not for right now. And peer evaluation. Again, peer evaluation is not something that you need to fill out. But if you think that at the end of the semester somebody did not contribute, that's what this link is for. Okay, I've put in the explanation down there. So let's go through the project a little bit, and then I'll start off with today's session. Okay. First, the project details. Let me click on that. So you have data on, and this is real data. What I do is I have 3 or 4 data sets that were collected by students in the past. So if you had taken 2052, let's say 3 years back when this was a 12-week course, you actually had to design the survey, you had to collect the data and then analyze it. That's not an option any longer. So what I continue to do is the data that were collected by the students, that data I give to you, that survey I give to you. Because that survey was designed by students, it's not impeccable. In fact, there are problems in it, which is something that I want you to identify. So in this particular case, it's about women buying cars. Not something that was used last trimester. I think I used it about a year back or so. I don't think you want to go back and look at those reports and, all of us have friends across other years, somebody who's graduated, somebody who took my class. I would suggest you don't. Obviously, you have the option of doing so. I believe in a code of honesty, but I'll leave that up to you. Because the process is more about you learning rather than going through the rigmarole of the whole thing without any reason. So if you want to, my suggestion is focus on what you're learning from the process. Again, the report is in the reports place, but it's playing around with the data, which is of importance, especially if you have any intentions of getting a job in marketing analyses, which I told you is a very lucrative field, which is going up by the day. You probably want to get your hands dirty. So that's the best way of describing it. Okay. So the data description are provided in here. Okay. You need to start off by, and this is week 8. Before that, you just get your hands dirty with the data. You need to start off by identifying aims. And you have been exposed or will be exposed a little bit in your tutorials about how to create an aim. The aims are really, really flexible. Okay? They are not set in stone. No two of you should have the same aims. At the end of the day, however, an aim should be something that should be translatable into one of the 4 P's. Decrease the price, okay? Or advertise a certain aspect of the car, advertise a certain aspect of the service. Instead of selling red cards, focus more on blue cards. That's the product component. I've talked about the price component. I've talked the promotion component. I've talked about the product component, product where you actually change the product. The one place where you might have a little bit of difficulty as far as this data goes is the 4th P, which is place. Okay? That is not to say that you can't have some suggestions for the manager for the 4th P, but that is relatively a little bit of extra work. If you do that, if you think you can give me good suggestions, those are obviously cookie points. Okay? So that's what you're going to be doing. You are going to be looking at that data and coming up with a report. Now let me go through the report in terms of what the format is going to be. I'm going to go through this one more time in a lot more detail, I would say around week 8 or week 9. But right now, just to put your heart at ease, it's not a big report, which is why I'll walk you through it. So let's open this. that's the presentation that is hopefully going to help you in creating your report. So they are due week 10, the Friday of week 10 by midnight, and you will be emailing a copy and the final data set. Why the final data set? Because you might be making changes to the data to your tutor. Okay, you don't email it to me, feel free to CC it to me, but the tutor is going to be making sure that all of you have submitted your reports. Now, I had a discussion with the tutors. I think a few of them are online right now. You are free to make groups across tutorials. Okay? So you don't need to have people in the same tutorial to make groups with. Probably this week, if it hasn't already happened, your tutors will make groups for you, help you in making groups. Whatever it is, just make sure that nobody's left out. Okay? If somebody's left out, your tutor might have to assign that person to a group. Okay? I would suggest groups of 4 or 5, preferably 5, given the amount of analyses that might be involved. Okay? So the report needs to be emailed to the tutors. 8 pages, that's all I'm looking at. Okay? And believe me, you will go over it. Now, 8 is not something which I want you to, adhere to in the spirit of the letter. If you give me 7, that's fine. If you give me 10, probably I'm not going to be too mad. Again, this is a suggestion. Now, most of what you're going to do in 2052 is going to be a suggestion. I am going to give you as much leeway as need be. What's the formatting like? I don't know. I don't care. As long as it's legible, I don't care what the spacing is, what the font is, what the margins are. You all are in pretty much out of college. You are halfway through college, so you can make that decision. Okay. All of these we'll talk about in a lot of detail later on. What you need to think about, there are 2 or 3 things that I will talk about. We talked about bottom line on top when we were looking at the market research 1011 process. This is that. This is an executive summary, which is 1 page maximum. Okay. Again, half a page, you're fine. 1.25 pages, you're fine. But it's got to be a summary. Don't give me a 6-page summary. A 6 page is not a summary. So again, whatever I'm giving in here are suggestions. Feel free to adhere to them. Don't go, berserk them. Okay. This is what the manager is going to get. Okay. Believe it or not, most of the managers are just going to read this. I always give the example of my work with Hewlett-Packard. So when I was with Hewlett-Packard, this is about 15 years or so back, we had a product line called the Busy Bee, which was, this is before your time, probably you guys were 4 or 5 years old. There was this chip called the 486, and then we moved to the Pentium. And the Pentium was a game changer. And we brought this out, we advertised it a lot, and at the end of almost 2 months, we found out that our sales were around 15% of what we thought they were going to be. So what do? We go to McKinsey. McKinsey comes back in about 2 months, gives us a report, which is about 1,500 pages long. Well, I'm probably exaggerating, close to 1,000 pages long. But 2 pages where all the findings had been condensed and put in. So that's what you're looking for. That's what the manager reads. I did not have time to read those 1,000 pages. I just looked at those 2 pages. The answer was we were not selling because our price was too high. It cost me $1.5 million to do that. But that, unfortunately or fortunately, is how it works. So that is what your executive summary is going to be. Okay? The gist of your findings and how the manager can change this into one of the 4 Ps. So that's your executive summary, your introduction, etc. We'll talk about this in week 7 or week 8, maybe week 9. We'll see how it goes. The introduction, the report aims, all that you need to do is make sure that an aim addresses or is translatable into a P that you can tell the manager. Again, we look at this in a lot of detail in week 7 or 8 or 9, whenever it comes to. Nothing for you right now on this particular one. Leave this one out too. This is the primary reason why I'm showing you this presentation format right now, which is deficiencies. One of the major things that I hope you walk out with when you finish this class is being able to identify how to make your studies better, how to make your market research better. Hence, while you are going through this process from now till week 9, you might think to answer a question about price, or to answer a question about speed, or to answer a question about gender, I need to ask my consumers, my respondents, this one question. Unfortunately, that question is not a part of your current survey. Jot that down. Jot that point down right now, because it's fresh in your head. Put that in. There's a reason why I want that question. What is the reason? What is the P that it's going to address? If I put that question in, my survey would be better. It's deficient right now. I just need to make it better. Okay? So that and the executive summary are the two things that you work with throughout the semester, even when you're just cleaning the data, even when you're just playing around with the data. Okay? So I'm going to stop here, references, etc. And as I promised you, I'll probably come back to this towards week 7, 8, or 9, depending on how fast or how slow we are going. That should be it for everything that's new in here. After today's lecture, a few more of these tests will become available to you. Your quiz will be discussed this particular tutorial. They'll probably spend about 5 to 10 minutes talking about the quiz. And your results should be hopefully in by Friday of this week. So again, the only reason why I ran this quiz was because the university makes us do so, so that you have the chance of withdrawing from the course if you want to. So those results are going to be with you towards hopefully the end of the week. I will, of course, send you an email when those results are uploaded. Okay, so that takes care of whatever I had to talk about, the paraphernalia rather than the actual course. Okay, so whatever we are going to be doing today is going to be part of what I call module 2.2. You have these slides. Okay? I am not going to go through the slides again, primarily reason being because this is not a place where it's about showing you a slide and you realizing what's happening. It's going to be more about you looking at the route which is going to take you to a certain test. Okay, so if you want to look at the slides, all the slides are in this particular module. There are going to be 3 tests that we are going to be working on, which are outlined in here: the one sample t-test, the independent samples t-test, and the paired t-test. Okay. We are going to work primarily on a blank sheet of paper as well as SPSS. So those are the 2 things that we are going to be working with. Okay, so let's start off with what we did last time. And then take it from there as we go ahead. So the last time when we started, what we had done was we had looked at the chi-square test. Okay, I'll try and rotate between typing it out as well as writing on this using a pen. Unfortunately, a pen doesn't work too well, so a little bit of typing might come in useful. So a chi-square test, and a chi-square test was used. Again, a chi-square test can be used with any kind of variable. Okay. End of the semester, I'll introduce you to something which is known as a binary variable, if time permit. Even then, you can use a chi-square test. It's a very flexible test, but it's a relatively useless test. Why is it useless? Because it tells you that a relationship exists. It doesn't tell you what that relationship is. So a manager is told men and women buy differently. Yeah, but how differently? What differently? That is something which a chi-square cannot tell you. So the only time when we want to use a chi-square is when we have two categorical variables. Okay. So that's the only time when we use a chi-square test. Today we are going to take the first step and move on to, instead of two categorical variables, we move on to something which is slightly better, slightly better in terms of being able to tell us not just the presence of a relationship, but what is the relationship. We'll go with the easiest scenario first, and then we will slowly make it a little more complicated. So the scenario that we are going to work with today is we are going to work with one categorical variable and one continuous variable. So there are two variables, still two variables just like there were last time, but this time we have one categorical variable and one continuous variable. What kind of categorical variable? It doesn't make a difference. Whether we have an ordinal variable or a nominal variable, either of those works for right now. Later on, as we make our table a little bit more complicated, this is going to change. But right now, we're just working with a very simplistic scenario, which is one categorical and one continuous variable. Okay. So now we have to go back to a little bit of drawing. There's no other way of going about working on this. When we have one categorical and one continuous variable, okay, what are we going to do? We are going to start off, and again, I will give you a very clean version of this once we are done with this particular box. We are going to start off by making just a simple box where we have the categorical variable on either the columns or the rows. It doesn't make a difference which goes where. It's just the substance in there which makes a difference. We are going to start off with a categorical variable and a continuous variable. And to make things simple, this is a very simplified version, but this is the best route to start. This is the way you slowly build upon and work through all the tests that are at your disposal. 2052, then 3054, then 3090. All assumptions, all types of variables we are going to play around with. We are going to relax assumptions and come up with new variables. So first of all, I am going to take this variable, which is the categorical variable, and give it a marketing name. Why am I giving this a marketing name? I'm giving this a marketing name because when I talk to a manager, I am going to give them a marketing solution. And most marketing solutions are based upon segments. We've talked about the STP framework, the segmentation, the targeting, and the positioning. Okay. So we are going to give a solution which is marketing based rather than statistical. So we are going to call a categorical variable a segmentation variable. And you'll understand in a second why. Well, I know how to spell segmentation, believe me. Segmentation. Right? Segmentation variable. Okay. Why am I calling it a segmentation variable? Okay. Let's look at one category. Sorry about that. Let's look at one categorical variable, which is gender. Okay. Gender is a categorical variable. What kind of categorical variable? It's a nominal variable. Why is it a nominal variable? Males, females. There is no order to it. So it's a categorical variable which is nominal in nature. Now, as far as this box that we are drawing, it doesn't make a difference whether this is a nominal variable or an ordinal variable. It will at a certain point of time. Right now it doesn't. Right now, any categorical variable, nominal and ordinal, you're going to get the same results. You're going to be pointed towards the same test. The reason why we are making this box is because it's going to help us run a certain test, the correct test. So we are going to start off with gender. What are the two genders? Again, we are not going with gender fluidity. There is nothing wrong with gender fluidity. It's just that statistically, right now, we're going with a simplistic scenario. If you want gender fluidity, in research, we work with gender fluidity. But right now, we are taking baby steps. So we have just two genders, male and female. Let us assume that these are our two segments. So I've taken a categorical variable and turned it into segments. Alternatively, let's look at the three types of cards. So we have the kind of card that you purchased. Purchased car. The purchased car can be American. Did somebody have a question? Nope. Okay. So the purchased car could be an American car, it could be a Japanese car, or it could be a European car. So I have three segments of consumers: consumers who have bought American cars, consumers who bought Japanese cars, consumers who have bought electronic cars. So there are three types of cars. Okay. Again, these are three segments. Is this the quotient definition of a segment? It's not. But we go with the assumption that these are three segments. Now, the number of possible segments is the driving force behind identifying what test to run. In this case, the number of segments is 2. In this case, the number of segments is 3. Let us suppose there is another variable which is called education. And in education, you have 4 segments which are finished school, finished undergrad, finished master's, finished PhD. 4. Each of these will have a different test. Each of these is going to have a different test. Okay. We have one more scenario, which is I am not even going to look at segments and assume that there is only one segment, which means I am not dividing my sample at all. I am not dividing my sample at all. I am analyzing everybody together. So how's this going to go? This is going to go this way. I have one segment. I have 2 segments. I'm analyzing one segment, which means everybody's clumped in together. I have 2 segments. I'm going to break my sample into 2, males and females. I am going to break it into 3, American, Japanese, European. I am going to break it into 4, which is school, undergraduate, master's, and PhD. So this is the number of segments that you're analyzing is what goes on top. Okay. So that's the first thing that you need to identify. And as we go through this today, hopefully it's going to get a little clearer. Okay. So first thing, what do we have? We have the number of segments that we are analyzing. That goes in the row or the column, whichever way you want to make it. That doesn't really make too much of a difference. We could flip these around, it would be the same. The second one is the number of questions from these segments that we are analyzing simultaneously. The key word is simultaneously, and you'll understand why that word is important. So I am analyzing one question. I am analyzing two questions. I am analyzing three questions, four questions, and so on. This looks like a big table, right? But it's going to be a lot simpler than what you see, because I am going to take these end areas and crush them together, but that happens later. Okay. What we are going to focus upon this lecture and the one next week are going to be box number 1. We'll give these names in a second. Box number 2 and box number 3. So these 3 are the second level of tests. The first level was chi-square. It runs a test for you. It's just that the test is not very useful. The second level, the tests are slightly better. Not too much, but they're slightly better. And these 3 tests, these set of 3 tests, are together known as t-tests. All 3 of them are known as t-tests. It's just that there are 3 different types of t-tests. We'll look at each of these individually. First thing that we are going to do today is look at one set of people, which means I'm not looking at differences across genders. I'm not looking at differences across the kind of car that you buy. I'm not looking at differences across education. I'm just collapsing everybody together. I'm just collapsing everybody together and analyzing them together. The continuous variable is one question. All these people have answered one question. So one group of people, one question. And this is known as, statistically, it's called a one sample t-test. It's easy to remember. It's one sample because I'm not breaking my sample. The sample is one. One sample t-test, one question. Okay. Now, this is the build-up of the test. What is important in here is to understand exactly what's happening. Okay. So let's go through, and we'll go back to the scientific method because now it becomes a little bit more important. Let me create a new slide. Now, let's look at, again, one sample, which means we are not in any manner or form breaking our sample. It's just one single sample, so one sample t-test. One sample t-test. Okay. You might also hear it called a simple t-test. That's also fine. That's very uniquely used in business. Nobody else calls it that. A simple t-test, if you hear that term, is a one sample t-test. One sample t-test. What is it used for? One question, one set of people. Let's suppose my question is, do people, notice the term people. I did not say do males. I did not say do females. I did not say do the educated. Do people care about speed in a car? Now, how is this question, and this is why you need to look at all of these as an aim. how can you translate this statement, this question that you have, this test that you want to do? How do you translate that into one of the 4 Ps for the manager? Okay. Now, if you were in class, I would ask you to, give me answers, and then, there would be a lot of conversation. Unfortunately, that can't happen right now. So let's think about this. It's speed. I ask people whether they care about speed. If they don't care about speed, let's look at this through all the 4 Ps. The product. Can I change the product? If they say they don't care about speed, I can probably make my car have less speed, less horsepower. What happens in that case? If I decrease the horsepower, my cost of production goes down. Right? If my cost of production goes down, what happens? My profits go up. So I can change the product itself. Price. Product, price. Can I translate this into price? Absolutely. Why is it that people are willing to pay an extra amount of money for, let's say, a car which has a high acceleration like the Mustang? The reason why you pay more money is because people, a certain set right now, a certain set cares about speed. So I can charge more money. What does charging more money translate to? Profits. Place, probably difficult. Promotion. I've talked with price, I've played with the product. What about promotion? Advertise the speed of a car. Advertise the speed to a certain target segment. What happens? More people buy the car. More people buy the car, more profits. Notice that all the 4 Ps should translate into profits. If they don't translate into profits, it does not imply anything about the 4 Ps. Short-term profits, I get money right now. Long-term profits, people get to like my car, my brand equity increases, as a result of which more people come to me. So short-term or long-term profits, every single thing needs to translate into profits. So a statement like the one that I have written in here, do people care about speed in a car? It's an aim which is going to probably address, out of the 4 Ps, 3 of them. Place being a little difficult. Again, not impossible, but place probably being a little difficult. So this is something that I want to check. I want to check if people care about speed. So the first thing that I need to do, going back to what we did last week, is write down the alternate. I need to always write down the alternate. What is the alternate? Okay. I want to prove that people care about speed. So I'm going to write people care about speed. Okay. This is a little vague. It's fine if you know the data. It's fine if you know your analyses, but if you don't, it's a little vague. So let me look at the data set. Sorry, I have so many windows open, but everything is getting recorded, so unfortunately, we'll have to live with that. Okay, so there we go. Speed. Okay, well, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Probably not, so I'll just clean this out. So, car attribute speed, is it important to you? Again, I'm hoping you guys have some experience with the data. You've opened it by now, have some familiarity with it. The question is speed important to you? 1, not important to me. 7, extremely important to me. So I need to start off by understanding first, what is the point of indifference? 1 says, this is not important to me. 7 says, it's very important to me. What's the middle point of the scale? 1 and 7, the middle point is a 4. If people tell me they are at a 4, they don't think speed is important, they don't think speed is unimportant, they are right at the middle, right at the cusp. Anything above 4 implies that speed is important. 4 is neutral. Anything above 4, speed is important. Anything less than 4, speed is not important. This is the most important part of this. We're going to look at a few things which will hopefully clarify it. So what does the scale look like? I have asked people on a scale of 1 through 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you care about speed? Is speed important to you? Neutral, it's neither important nor unimportant to me. It's unimportant to me, it's important to me. So I decide neutral is the way I want to go. Now, if I write down this, and again, we'll take 2 minutes, we'll try and understand what's going on, and please stop me if this is not clear. For the sample, what is the mean? Do we know what the mean is for the sample? Yes, we do. Right? I know all the values for all the 150 or so people. Right? We already know. Let's go back and check. What do I need to do? Analyze descriptive statistics. Descriptives. What is the variable that I'm considering? Speed. What do I want? Just the mean. Nothing else is fine. What's the mean? 5.22. I know what the mean of the sample is. This is the gist of statistics. I know that the mean for the sample is 5.22. Okay? But that's not what I'm looking at. What am I looking at? Instead of surveying these 154 people, there you go, 154, instead of looking at just these 154 people, if I were to look at my entire population, how confident would I be that for the population, this mean is going to be above 4? For the sample, it's already above 4. Can I make a statement which says that the mean of the population is also going to be above 4? Can I make that statement? And if so, with what degree of confidence? So, notice what I'm going to do. X is 5 point something something, whatever it was, I think it was 5.22. My H naught is going to be, not for the sample, but for the population, the mean is greater than 4, S standing for speed. The mean for the population for the attribute speed is greater than 4. How can I make that prediction? How do I make that prediction? That prediction is solely based on 2 things. What are they? The mean and the standard deviation. We talked about this last time. Okay. What is standard deviation? If people give me answers all over the place, if a lot of people have given me 1, a lot of people have given me 7, I don't know what I'm going to see in the population. But if everybody is relatively close, then I can make a confident projection. And that level of confidence is, if you remember from last time, is the value P. So let's introduce ourselves to the alternate in this case, which says the population mean for speed is greater than 4. Why did we decide upon 4 again? Because 4 is the point of neutrality. There is no other reason. Somebody might come up and say, one of the managers says, 4 is the point of neutrality, but I want people to really think it's important. We do this in education, we do this in pharmacy. What is it that we do? We say, if people give me a 6 or a 7, they like me. Anything less than that, it's not something which is good. 6 and 7 are the only... Question? SW. Oh, okay. All right. So 6 and 7 are the only ones which imply that people like me. If people give me a 5, they're saying they like me, but they're not, that's not what I'm aiming for. I, as a teacher, want people to give me a 6 or a 7. This is known as the top 2 box phenomenon. We'll talk about that end of the semester. But right now, all I'm saying is the point of neutrality is the middle. We are going to assume that it's the middle. Anything above 4, people give importance to that attribute. Anything less than 4, people do not give importance to the attribute. Now look at the alternate that I just wrote down. Is there an equality in there? There isn't. If somebody said, prove that the importance given to safety is a 4, can you prove it? You can't ever prove that. You can't ever prove an equality. So what are you going to do? What you're going to do is you're going to create an alternate which has an inequality, a greater than sign, a less than sign, or not equal to sign. You have to create that. No matter what your aim is, you have to create an alternate which has a greater than sign, a less than sign, or a not equal to sign. In this case, the mean of speed is greater than 4. That's my alternate. What is my null? The exact opposite of this, which is if I wanted, I could also have said HA is not equal to, whichever way you want to write it, 4. That's also perfectly correct. In this case, the null is going to be H0 Somebody might say, and again, this is why these tests are great. Somebody might say, come in and say, I think that people actually think that speed is unimportant. In which case, what's my alternate? In that case, my alternate is HA is less than 4. H naught is greater than or equal to 4. All three of these alternates are correct. All three of these nulls, they are correct. Which one do you want to go with? It depends totally on you. And no matter which one you go with, once you look at the results, you will always pick the right alternate. Okay? You will always pick the right alternate. You might have to change your alternate, but we'll look at that as we go along. That's known as a post facto hypothesis, which is a no-no in statistics, which is a no-no in psychology, but in business, our intention is not to, invent science. Our intention is to give the manager something that he or she can work with. So what are we going to be doing? We are going to now run a test checking for, and we'll come back and do something else in 10 minutes or so, checking for HA greater than 4. This in English translates to people, sorry, I should be writing new speed out here. Let's erase this, there you go. Mu S is greater than 4. People care about speed in the population. Based on our sample, that is what I want to prove. So that's step one for each and every test that you run. Okay. When we come to other tests, probably I'll ask you to just do this at the back of your head. You will not write this down. But right now, for the first 3 weeks at least, this is something that's got to be at the back of your head. And you'll notice that no matter what you do, as long as you follow the steps, you'll always have accepted or rejected the right hypotheses. Okay. So I'm going to assume, and I'll look at the alternate also later on, that this is my hypothesis. For every alternate, there's got to be a null. You're probably going to be looking at writing both of those. I want to check if there is enough evidence in the data to be able to prove that in the population, the mean of the importance of speed is greater than 4. In the sample, it's 5.22. Can I be confident and say that in the population, it's going to be greater than 4? Okay, let's try and do that. This is the first proper test that you are going to be running. See what I'm doing, and again, you will have access to these tests, small little blurbs, which are probably going to help you. But this is not the important part. What is important is writing down the hypotheses, which is going to become less and less important. Look at the output, choose the correct alternate, and then most importantly, convert that into a managerial decision. So for the next 1 or 2 weeks, we are going to be sitting at analyze, compare means, and the first one that we are going to be working with today is the one sample t test, the OSTT one sample t test. What is a one sample t test? Just one sample. I'm not grouping it into multiple samples. Okay? And I'm working with just one question, just one question, just one continuous variable at a time. I'll explain what that one at a time means, because that is going to throw you off for some time, but don't worry about it. One sample t-test. 2 windows, the variable window on your left, the analysis window on your right. What is the variable that I want to analyze? The variable that I want to analyze is speed. The importance of speed. Okay. That's the first thing that you do, is get the variable on the analysis window. Now, this is the second part. I need to tell SPSS, and SPSS, like I told you, like a statistical language, it's stupid. It doesn't know what to do. You have to tell it what to do. If I press OK now, it'll run a test. What is it running? God knows. You need to tell it what to run. I want to check in the sample, the importance was 5.22, which is certainly greater than 4. But based on that 5.22 and the standard deviation that goes along with it, can I project with a certain degree of confidence that in the population, the mean is going to be greater than 4? Why do we decide 4? Because that's the midpoint. See this box down here. Test value. What does test value do? Test value is the value that you are testing against. I am checking this against 4. So I am going to write 4 in here. This is something that you will understand in a second. This is something that you will be able to run 2 seconds down the line. This is easy. The fact that you have to run a t-test and the fact that 4 goes in there is probably the more difficult part of it. 2 weeks down the line, you are going to know this through and through. Right now, first test, it's a little difficult to understand why you are doing this. Okay? We'll do a few more, which will explain why we are doing a 1 sample t-test and what that implies. That's it. The test is done. All you need to do is press OK, and there you go. We don't care about any of the statistics. Again, that's not the intention of this course. What are we interested in? What can we tell the manager? And every single time you are going to be relegated to looking at significance. See this? That's your p-value. Significance is all that we are going to be looking at every single test. 0.000. What does significance mean? What does p mean? It implies the chances that you are going to make an error if you accept the alternate. The chances that you are going to make an error if you accept the alternate. 0.000. What are the chances that you are going to make an error if you accept the alternate? 0. There is no chance. Given the sample mean, which was 5.22, and given the standard deviation, whatever it was, I can say with 100% confidence. 100% confidence.
100% confidence.
Okay, I can say with 100%. Okay, I can hear myself. LM. Somebody with the initials LM. Okay, so I can say with 100% confidence, what can I say? That in the population, which is if I survey my 5 million people who are my entire target market, they will care about speed. For them, the mean value is going to be greater than 4. So that's what statistics has done. It's given you 100% confidence. Sampling just 150 people, 100% confidence for 5 million people. What? That they care about speed. Somebody might come back and say, I am 100% confident that they care about speed. But you decided to go with 4 being, the point of neutrality. I want it to be 5. If they say that they care about speed, 5, 6, or 7, then I can spend resources on speed, on advertising speed, on making speed better, asking for a premium for speed. 4 seems to be too non-committal. Okay, let's make them a little bit more committed. Do I see that commitment in the population? In the sample, do I? Yes, I do. It's greater than 5. But can I make this projection for the population and say, I'm going to write down a new alternate?
Info at a time where anything can happen. News alerts when you need them most with the 9 News app.
Okay, this is bound to happen. This is less embarrassing than some of the stories that I've heard. Okay, so there we go. HA mu S, importance of speed in the population is greater than 5. Importance of speed in the population is greater than 5. What is my null now? I need to write both of these down. H naught mu is less than or equal to 5. In the sample, it's 5.22. But can I make that projection for the population? That's my basic question. Let's check. Analyze. Compare means. 1 sample t-test. Instead of 4, my test value is 5. That's how simple it is. That's it. Now, press OK. Let's look at the significance. 0.037. I can say with 100% confidence, as I saw in here, that based on what I see in the sample in the population, the mean is going to be above 4. But I can say with only 3.7, 0.037 is, move the decimal 2 places to the right, with 3.7% confidence that the alternate, there's a 3.7% chance that my alternate is incorrect. What does the significance tell you? What does P tell you? The chance that your alternate is incorrect. So there's a 3.7% chance that your alternate is incorrect, which means if I were to survey the entire population, there's a 3.7% chance that the mean of that is going to end up being less than 5. There's a 3.7% chance. Okay? So that is how you run a simple one sample t-test. Now, I had told you, and this is probably something really important, I had told you that instead of looking at mu greater than 4, your alternate could have been HA mu less than 4. If I had this alternate, I would have run the exact same test. I would have got the exact same result. Okay? My H naught would have been mu greater than or equal to 4. I run this test, there is no difference. Do I accept my alternate, which means mu is greater than mu is less than 4? No, you don't. Why? Because there is one more step, and I'm driving this point again and again. Looking at the significance, and there's always going to be a second step, a third step, depending upon the test that you run. In a t-test, not only do you look at the p-value, which is the significance, there is one more thing that you look at, which is the mean. And that's why a t-test provides you the mean. What is the mean? 5.22. Step 1 told me that my hypothesis was correct. My alternate was correct. Step 2, my mean is 5.22, which is greater than 4. So what I do is known as a post facto, after the fact correction, also known as a post facto hypothesis. Okay. If you go to a statistics class and talk about this, they're going to kick you out. You go to a psychology class and you talk about this, they're going to kick you out. You go to a research class, any kind of research, they're going to kick you out. Market research, we don't care about being kosher. We want to focus upon something that is going to help the manager. So we can go back and do it. It's accepted in the industry. It's not accepted in academia, it's accepted in the industry. You go back and change the direction. Change the direction of the hypotheses. Why? Because the mean told you that what you hypothesized was wrong. Your test was correct. There's nothing wrong with the test. Your alternate was correct to start off with, nothing wrong with it. But when you ran the test, you found that your p-value was less than 0.05, but your mean was in the opposite direction. You had prophesized, you had hypothesized that it would be less than 4, but it was greater than 4. So you go back, cross off your alternate, cross off your null after you run the test, and fix it to what the results tell you. Okay? This is something which you will be allowed to do only in business. Business when we are looking at a consultative approach. Business not when we are looking at it in terms of academic research, only a consultative approach. Why? Because the focus is not on statistics. The focus is not on being kosher, on being pure. The focus is tell the manager what the right answer is so that you can change it to one of the 4 P's. That's what the intention is. Let's do a few more of these tests because that's the only manner and form in which you are going to get comfortable with this. We looked at speed. We have a total of, I think, 12 attributes. Let's look at one more attribute. Let's look at comfort. Now this is going to seem so much simpler than the first round that we did. So we are looking at one group of people, one sample t-test. Do people care about comfort in a car? Do people think comfort is unimportant or do people think it's important? So my question is, do people care about comfort? If they care about comfort, I'm going to spend money in making a better product. I'm going to advertise comfort. I'm going to charge you more for a comfortable car. On the other hand, if people do not care about comfort, I'm not going to spend extra money on comfort. Why give them the leather seats when cloth seats are fine? Why make a heated steering wheel when a simple steering wheel is fine? So I want to know about comfort. So what am I going to do? I'm first going to write my alternate. What is my alternate? Here's the nice and easy part, exactly what we did earlier. All we do is mu comfort is greater than 4. C standing for comfort. That's it. That's your alternate. Okay. I promise you they're not going to be this easy as you go along. Okay. They are going to get tougher, and when they get tougher, there are 2 things that you're going to do. Probably resort to English, and then at one point of time, just stays at the back of your head. You don't actually put it down on paper. What's the second one? An alternate needs to be followed by a null. If you were in statistics, you would have done it the other way around. We, however, in business are going to do exactly the other way around. There we go. Okay, so mu for comfort is greater than 4 is my alternate. Mu, which is the population mean for comfort, is less than or equal to 4 is my null. How do I run this test? Let's get rid of all that we have in here. Analyze. Compare means one sample t-test. I'm going to reset everything. I am now looking at comfort. Test value. We decided we want to go with 4. Do you want to play around with 5? Sure, go ahead and do that. Do you want to play around with 3? That's fine. Whatever you want. This is something that you decide. Point of neutrality, which means people neither care about it or do not care about it, whichever way. So that point of neutrality is 4, which is why I put 4 in here. As long as you can explain why you put that number in there, that's fine. If I were actually doing this research for a market research company, the number that I would put down there would actually be 5. Okay? But again, that's specific to that situation. As far as our data goes, 4 seems to be the midpoint. We'll go with that. Press OK. Done. Significance 0.000, which means if I accept the alternate, what are the chances that I'm going to make an error? 0. There is no chance of making an error. People care about comfort. People care about comfort. So let's go back and put a check next to it. Did I forget something? Yes, I did, which is step 2, Please look at the mean just to confirm. Let's have a look at the mean. Mean is 6.74. Oh God, people do care about comfort. People seem to care more about comfort than they do about mean. I can't compare them right now. All I can look at is the mean. So what have I done? I checked for the importance of comfort. What did I find? Number one, the chances of me making an error on my alternate was 0. P is 0.000. And second, the mean was in the right direction. Had this mean been 2.74, what would I have done? I would have gone back to my alternate, turned it around. My alternate in that case would have been mu c less than 4. I would go back and also change my null, mu c greater than equal to 4. Now, remember when I started off, I said we are doing these individually. One continuous variable and one categorical variable. Now, the key term, this is the most important term, and this is something which a lot of people make mistakes with. When I move out of this box, which is one category and one question, I will start making comparisons. I'm going to compare males with females. Question 1 and question 2, which one is more important? Okay. That's what I'm going to be doing. Okay. A comparison between two categories or a comparison between two questions. However, in SPSS, I'm still in that box. Remember, I'm still in that box. I can run multiple one sample t-tests together. Multiple one sample t-tests, which means I'm looking at attribute 1 independently, then attribute 2, then attribute 3, and then attribute 12, all the way down to all 12. What does that thing do? If I run 12 separate one sample t-tests, what do I find out? Is attribute number 1 greater than 4, attribute number 2 greater than 4, attribute number 3 greater than 4, and so on. It is not, is attribute 1 more important than attribute 2? It is not more, attribute 2 is more important than attribute 3. There is no comparison. So see what I'm going to do now. Analyze, compare means, still one sample t-test. I'm going to reset everything. Here is my question. What attributes do people care about? There are 12 attributes that hopefully you all are familiar with by now. There are 12 attributes starting from comfort all the way till speed of repairs. There are 12 attributes. I want to know which ones do people care about. Not which one is the most important, but which one do they care about. I'm going to run all 12 of these tests together. This does not mean I'm comparing them against each other. This is an individual test for each and every attribute. Based on this, what you're doing right now, you cannot say, even if the mean of comfort is greater than the mean for safety, that does not mean anything at all. That is a comparison across two attributes. That's a different test. We are not going to test that. We are just going to touch each of these individually, and I want to check which one of these, out of all these 12s, which ones can I make a confident projection? For which one of these can I make a confident projection that in the population, from the sample, in the population, the mean is going to be greater than 4. That means people care about these attributes. So all 12 of them being run at the same time, but there is no comparison across the two of those, any two. These are all independent tests. Each of these is a separate one sample t-test, which means you've run 12 one sample t-tests at a go. If you had taken this class about 10 years back, this option was not available. You didn't have the computing power. You didn't have any kind of capabilities. These computers were damn slow. And when I was in my undergrad, I actually had to punch holes. So it was a different time and place. Now, on the other hand, all 12 of these are going to get done, and you won't even see a time delay. There you go, all 12 of them done. Let's look at the means. All of these seem to be important, which means for all of these, I can say people care about these attributes. But I would be making a small mistake in there. Why? There's a second step. For each of these, significance is 0.000, which means that the alternate, what is the alternate? H, A is mu for all 12 attributes is greater than 4. How would I write it? Any way you want. I am going to just write my HA is mu 1 through 12 is greater than 4. See, the intention is not to write a perfect hypothesis. The intention is to write a hypothesis that is correct, and that is something which conveys the meaning to the person who is reading it. Who's reading it right now? It's just you. So it has to convey. All I'm saying is all the 12 means are greater than 4. That's it. So what is my null? My null is mu all the 12 means are less than and equal to 4. The equal to again has to be in the null. What is it that's wrong in here? If I go through the means, all of these are greater than 4 except for this guy, this last one. This guy is going to be a pain in the rear throughout this trimester as we work with this last attribute. This guy's going to be different from all the others. They want to be, he or she wants to be different from all the others. What do you see in here? The mean is less than 4. The mean is less than 4. Which means people actually think this is unimportant. All the other attributes are important, but speed of repair, how fast your car gets repaired, is unimportant. So I need to go back and look at my hypotheses. After I run the test, I find that this is not correct. What is the correct answer? The correct answer is HA mu 1 through 12, sorry, 1 through 11 is greater than 4. But so retrospectively, post facto, I have gone and changed the hypotheses for just one attribute. Just one. Okay. All the others are exactly the way they were. So 2 steps. What are the 2 steps? The 2 steps are, first look at the p-values, and after that make sure that you look at the means and confirm that the direction is consistent with your hypotheses. The second part is something that you guys might forget. Please make sure that you don't. There are always going to be 2 steps in a t-test, all kinds of t-tests. Now, I'm going to run one more thing by you. Okay. After that, we'll move on to our second set of tests. What is that? So hopefully all of you are familiar with the 4 different categories of variables that we have. So we have importance of attributes, that's number 1. Then we have issues, second set of variables, third values, third set of variables, and fourth is current car satisfaction with the attributes of a car. If you don't remember this, let me just show you the data. There you go. So the issues are the first set of data. You're going to be getting homework and you make your own questions on this data. This is something that I'm going to be working with a lot, which is how important do you think an attribute is? How important do you think comfort is? How important do you think safety is? Then you have your values, which are completely psychographics. And then you have 12 attributes which ask you, what do they ask you? They ask you, given the current car that you have, the current car, all these guys are luxury car owners. Okay, they've either bought an American, a European, or a Japanese car. Given the current car that you have, are you satisfied with comfort or not satisfied with comfort? Scale of 1 to 7. 1, very unsatisfied. 7, very satisfied. Are you satisfied with safety? 1, very unsatisfied. 7, very satisfied. All the way down to speed of repairs. Are you satisfied? Are you very unsatisfied? Are you extremely satisfied? There's one more question down there. And this is going to be one of the most important questions, because as marketers, one of the major things that we study is satisfaction, customer satisfaction. So overall, are you satisfied with your car? That again is on a scale of 1 to 7. 1, very unsatisfied. 7, very satisfied. So here is what we are going to do. We want to check if our consumers are satisfied with us overall, and of these 12 attributes, so we have 10, 12 attributes, out of these 12 attributes, is there something that they are dissatisfied with? Okay. So what are we looking at? We are looking at 12 attributes of the car that you currently own. Are you satisfied with them? And 13, the overall satisfaction with your car. The overall car, are you satisfied with that? So what is my alternate? What is my null? Hopefully you are at a place where this seems something that you can do. If not, please have a chat with me whenever you get the chance. Mu, we are looking at satisfaction of attributes 1 through 12 plus overall satisfaction. Write this whichever way you want, as long as it makes sense. Okay. You want to write this in English? Excellent. You want to write it like this? That's fine. As long as it conveys some of the meaning. Is greater than 4. So I'm a very happy marketing manager. I believe that the best is going to happen, and my conjecture is, my hypothesis is, my prophecy is that people are going to be happy with every single attribute. Okay, that's my alternate. Which means there is the devil which comes back and tells me, nope. The devil's advocate says that they hate you on every single thing, which is mu satisfaction 1 through 12 plus overall satisfaction is less than 4, less than equal to 4. They are actually unsatisfied with you. Okay? So we have the happy manager and the opposite of that. Who is it? You know, the person who really thinks that you are not doing a good job. And then there is that internal manager who comes back and says, well, I am your commanding officer, and I think you're doing a terrible job. And I prophesize, I hypothesize that people hate you on everything. Sorry, that's a 4. So everything is fine, everything is horrible. Which one of these is correct? It doesn't make a difference. Both of these are correct. Both of these are correct. And once I run the test, one of these is going to be the correct alternate. One of these is going to be flipped. Or maybe some components will be flipped. They might be happy with safety, but they might hate speed. So something in here might change. What you're starting off with does not make a difference. What you end up with, you have to be careful. And if you read everything correctly, no matter how you start off, the end result is always going to be correct. So let's try and play with this. Analyze. Compare means one sample t-test. I'm no longer looking at car attributes. I'm looking at satisfaction with the 12 car attributes. The car that you currently own, how satisfied are you? And then finally, one more, which is overall satisfaction. Test value, still 4. If you want to play around with the different number, that's good. If you don't, that's fine too. Press OK. All your results out in a second. So, significance, I'm spoiling you because you are not going to get significances which are going to be this consistently less than 0.000. When you work with your data, you will see these are easy tests and these are very predictable. But you will see that this is not always the case. In this case, however, everything is significant, which means people think that they're satisfied with every single thing, which means my alternate is correct. All my alternates are correct. The chances of me making errors on my alternate are 0.000. Step 2 needs to be looked at, however, which is the means. Let's have a look at the means. Comfort, extremely satisfied. Safety, extremely satisfied. Everything they seem to be extremely satisfied with, except for, remember that variable? Remember that attribute? Speed of repairs. They told me in my previous test, and this is where you identify problem areas. My respondents told me previously, what did they tell me? They told me it doesn't make a difference. Speed of repairs doesn't make a difference. They told me they don't care about it, but they seem to be unhappy with it. They're not satisfied with speed of repairs. They told me they don't care about it, but they're unhappy about it. What do I do? Put the two of these together, and you need to come up with a solution for a manager. If they don't care about it, do I really care if they're not satisfied about it? I don't know. You will need to learn more tests to figure out maybe they are saying that they don't care about it, but the low satisfaction with speed of repairs is lowering my current satisfaction with the car. So although they say they don't care about it, I still have to give it to them. That's a test that we're going to come to later. Right now, what do I find? I find that they seem to be satisfied with everything, with the sole exception of speed of repairs. So what am I going to do with my null and my alternate? That's not it. Where did it go? Okay, I have no idea where I lost it. Too many things in here, so let's just write this down. There you go, there it is. So this is what we had started off with. It's mostly correct, but I need to change it a little bit, which is going to be HA is mu satisfaction 1 through 11 plus overall satisfaction is less than 4. Sorry, is greater than 4. is greater than 4, and HA mu satisfaction with attribute number 12 is less than 4. So I'd started off with one set of alternates. Unfortunately, by the time I'm done, there are 2 categories. 12 of them they're happy with, 13th one they are unhappy with. So I need to figure out what I want to do with the 13th one, which is speed of repairs. So that's how you identify problem areas in your product. First type of test, which was a one sample t-test, also known as a simple t-test. I group my entire sample together and analyze only one question at a time. Now SPSS, you have done 11 at the same time, no comparison. That's the focal point. There is no comparison. If there's a comparison, then you have to run a different test. So let's go back to our boxes. What were our boxes? I'm going to give you a simplified form now, which is categorical variable. We have one group, one question. What was the test that we ran? It's called a one sample t test. I'm going to introduce and probably spend 10 minutes on creating the hypotheses for the next set of tests that we are going to be dealing with, which is when the categorical variable has 2 groups or 2 segments. Males, females, educated, uneducated, high income, low income, people who commute to work, people who work from home. 2 groups of people. Notice that a few of these were ordinal variables and a few of them were nominal variables. Gender is a nominal variable. Working from home is a nominal variable. Okay. Education is an ordinal variable. Income is an ordinal variable, but just 2 levels. So 2 levels, 2 groups of people, and I am going to analyze just one question. Sorry about that. And I am going to analyze just one question. 2 groups of people, one question, 2 groups that are independent of each other. There is no overlap. Males and females, there is no overlap. They are independent of each other, completely independent. Low education, high education, there is no overlap. People who work from home, people who travel to work, there is no overlap. High income, low income, there is no overlap. These samples are independent. I'm going to take my sample and break it into 2. Just 2 right now. Later on, we'll break it into multiple pieces. But right now, I just break them into 2. 2 groups of people and 1 question. So what is this question going to be like? This question is going to be, males and females, who cares more about speed? Males and females, who cares more about comfort? Males and females, who cares about, let's say, price? So I'm breaking my sample. Notice that it's the sample that I can break. I can't break the population. I'm going to break my sample into 2 groups. Look at the importance that the first one gives to a certain attribute, to a certain question. Look at the importance that the second one gives to the question, and check whether one gives more importance than the other. To start off with, you will again need to write an alternate. You will need to write a null. Okay? So let's go ahead and create a few questions and write the alternates and the nulls. So my question is, something that I want to analyze is, I want to check, and this is a perception that most of us have, whether males give more importance to speed as compared to females. If I were to ask you, your intuition would say, yeah, that's probably true. Women would care more about safety, let's say, and men would care more about speed. So let's look at these one at a time. Let's look at the first one. My alternate is going to be, and this alternate is based on my intuition. My intuition might be completely worth, it might not be worth the paper it's written on, so to say. It might not be worth anything at all. So HA, males, the importance of speed. Now, this is a projection that I'm making onto the population. In the sample, I know the importance that women give to speed. I know the importance that men give to speed. So in the sample, I already know what's happening. I need to make a projection about the population. Okay. So what am I going to say? These guys, which are the men, they care more about speed as compared to women. So I'm using males and females. Excuse me. So men care more about speed as compared to women in the population. That in the population, nobody says it, but it's implicit, because in the sample, I already know. What's the null? The exact opposite of this, which is mu males speed is less than mu female speed. And we also need to add the neutral case, which is that they're equal. Again, we can't prove ever. Probably I don't need to say this. I've said this many times, and hopefully you are happy with, unhappy because of the amount of times I'm telling you. You can't ever test for equality. You can't ever test if males and females are the same in the population. Okay? There's no way of doing it. There are some advanced simulation-based techniques, but we are not going to look at those. Okay? So these are my null and my alternate. Okay? Now, let's look at how you run this test. Analyze. Still sitting in here. Compare means independent samples t-test. I'm taking my sample, breaking it into two independent groups. The 2 is implicit in here. Okay, the 2 is implicit in here. Don't worry about it. If you don't remember the 2, it's not needed. It's breaking it into 2 independent samples. Press OK. So the question that I want to analyze is importance of speed. Ever since I was a kid, I've been told women are safe drivers, men on the other hand want speed, want thrills, so men probably care more about speed. Women care less about speed. So that's the variable that I want to analyze. There's something else in here that you need to do, which is, see this box down here? It's called grouping variable. Okay, what is grouping variable? SPSS has no idea what you want to analyze. So you need to tell SPSS the groups that you want to analyze. Let me show you how that is done. The group that we want to analyze, the groups that we want to analyze lies in the variable sex. And the variable values are 0 standing for females, 1 standing for males. Let's confirm that's correct. Zero stands for females, 1 stands for males. So Where did my test go? Ah, there you go. I have to tell SPSS what is it that I'm comparing. I'm comparing group number 1, which is women, which is represented by 0. I am going to compare that with group 2, which is males, which is men, represented by 1. I'm telling you what the two groups are. I'm telling SPSS what the two groups are. And do they differ on this question that you see above, which is speed? So two things. First, the attribute that you're analyzing. That's number 1. And second is the group. You have to specify what groups you're analyzing. I won't do this today, but what I'm going to do next week is show you how you can use, instead of 2 groups, 3 groups. But we'll look at that later on. Press OK. Done. What are we interested in? Significance. What is the significance? 1.000. What does that imply? If I were to accept my alternate, I would be 100% wrong. I would be 100% wrong if I were to accept my alternate. So what should I accept? My null. My null has to be accepted. Okay? My null has to be accepted. Why does my null have to be accepted? Because there's a 100% chance that the alternate is incorrect. So I am going to go back and say this is correct, this is wrong. So the perception that we've had since we were kids, which is that men care more about speed as compared to women, that is not true. And this is not something that you find in just this data set. I've worked with so many car companies, so many data sets. There is pretty much no difference. There's sometimes you see a difference at 15%, but that's P equal to 0.15. But usually there is no difference in terms of importance given to speed. Both males and females say, and that's a very tricky word, they say that they care equally about speed. Does that make a difference to their purchase decision, to their overall satisfaction? We'll see about that later. But as far as them saying that they care about speed, men and women care equally about speed. Okay? It's always the same. Okay, so this is just the introduction to independent samples t-tests. I will stop here because we are close to, and anyway, there's a huge problem that we have in terms of Moodle, which is that you cannot upload a video which is more than 200 MBs. And if you go over 1 hour 45 minutes, the recorded video goes above 200 MBs, and it's pretty much impossible to upload that. Okay, so I'll stop recording this at least.